Do you want to state for the record that what you stated on air was false because people are listening to you about the campaign? And why should they believe you if you're lying about other things?
Right. So
I told you I'll come back to that. I mean, again, the viewers are smart. Corey, the viewers are smart. They understand that having been busted under oath, you admitted that. You said, quote, I have no obligation to be honest with the media. And so this is relevant because even though I'm being fair and giving you time, if you admit under oath that you were not telling the truth, it is relevant now. And now you seem to be unable to address that. I'm putting you on notice. If you continue to repeat falsely that I said that, you will be potentially in a defamation situation.
Recently restored to the 2024 Trump campaign, disgraced top Trump advisor Corey Lewandowski appeared on MSNBC for a rematch with the host who humiliated him 5 years ago and exposed him as an inveterate liar. And this heated rematch went exactly as you might expect. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, friends, we have several clips to talk about in this video. Corey Lewandowski is a name that I've mentioned repeatedly in the past several weeks. And prior to that, he's really not been relevant in the Republican Party. He was a major figure in Donald Trump's 2016 campaign, and he was seen as kind of this unscrupulous, unethical bruiser, a brawler, a fighter. His advice to Trump was always let Trump be Trump. And after one scandal too many, we'll talk about, and you'll see flashbacks to, he was effectively shunted aside. But now that the 2024 Trump campaign is not doing well, Trump is panicking and he's reaching out to a comfort blanket. He doesn't want to heed the sane advice of people like Chris LaCivita and other more seasoned Republican operatives. So he has recalled Corey Lewandowski to his campaign to serve as a senior advisor. And as a consequence, Corey Lewandowski is making the rounds. And for some reason, he decided to appear on MSNBC on Ari Melber's show. And Ari Melber used the opportunity to confront Lewandowski about a bold-faced lie that Lewandowski made to Melber and MSNBC and to the American people, which found its way into the Mueller report and helped destroy Lewandowski's career. And we're going to play these clips and unpack it together.
Remember the president ever asking me to get involved with Jeff Sessions or the Department of Justice in any way, shape, or form ever.
That wasn't true, was it, sir?
I heard that.
And that was not true, was it?
I have no obligation to be honest with the media because they're just as dishonest as anybody else. Perhaps I was inaccurate at that time.
Okay, so for context, Corey Lewandowski said under oath to Robert Mueller, the special counsel who investigated then President Trump for obstruction of justice and conspiracy with the Russian government. And it turns out that according to Lewandowski, under oath, then President Trump did try to pressure Corey Lewandowski to have Attorney General Jeff Sessions effectively kill the investigation into Trump. Very corrupt, very unethical. And instead, what he said to the American people on MSNBC is, of course, I don't recall anything like that. Turned out it was a lie. And his justification under oath in Congress and subsequent testimony was, I don't have an obligation to be honest to the media because the media is dishonest. That's the predicate for the rematch. So that was the flashback. And here is the modern day response, the modern day rematch.
Can you state for the record? Let me ask you. I'll give you the question.
Amazing,
I'll give you the question. And you can get the answer.
Back then.
We heard you on the campaign, 2024. Now I want to turn to this to deal with it. First time you've been back since then. Do you want to state for the record that what you stated on air was false because people are listening to you about the campaign? And why should they believe you if you're lying about other things?
Ari, if we're going down this road, are you going to state that Donald Trump had a bandage on his ear just for a spectacle? Are you going to state that that was false? The guy got shot in the head, and you said the only reason he had a bandage on his ear, I can read you the quote if you want, that you said it was just for a spectacle. So if you want to apologize,
two things. You're not answering the question, Corey.
Ari, you're
not answering the question.
Do you take back your statement?
I know what you're referring to, and at the end of the interview, we can touch base on that. We're going to finish this question. I will return to that. But the question on the table is, do you admit now for the record that when asked point blank about Donald Trump, I said I'll go to it at the end, and I will. I'll do that for you. Okay. But right now, the question is, you agreed to come on and be interviewed. You got time.
Absolutely did.
Now I'm asking you this. Do you admit that you were stating that falsely at the time because the investigation was about whether Donald Trump was trying to get you to get Sessions to shut down a lawful probe?
Ari, if you tell me that you admit that you were wrong, that Donald Trump wasn't having a bandage on his ear for spectacle, then I'll take you for your word. So you tell me that you were wrong.
So you're not. I told you I'll come back to that at the end because I will, but you're not going to answer the question.
Ari, listen, here's the deal, man. I'm with you to answer questions, but you can't ask me something when you're not willing to say that you were wrong too. Right? So admit
I told you I'll come back to that. I mean, again, the viewers are smart. Corey, the viewers are smart. They understand that having been busted under oath, you admitted that. You said, quote, I have no obligation to be honest with the media. And so this is relevant because even though I'm being fair and giving you time, if you admit under oath that you were not telling the truth, it is relevant now. And now you seem to be unable to address that. I'll play one more exchange from your House hearing. Take a look.
So again, we'll play that clip as well. But you see how obsequious and dishonest and cowardly Corey Lewandowski is, like many prominent MAGA Republican Trump supporters in the Republican Party and in conservative media. He's like, listen, yeah, you wanted me here. I wanted to be interviewed by you. I'm giving you the time to answer questions. But listen, before I answer the question, you have to do X, Y, and Z for me. Again, it would be easy for Ari Melber to say that has, Donald Trump's bandage has absolutely nothing to do with this. I asked the questions, you answer, you agreed to be here. But instead, he generously says, well, listen, we'll talk about that. But first, since I asked you the question, will you answer honestly? And he won't. He refuses to. This idea of conditional honesty. And it's so funny because, again, Ari Melber has the receipts. They have Corey Lewandowski under oath. And of course, the reason that this is relevant is because this isn't. It'd be one thing if Melber basically blew the dust off of Corey Lewandowski's career and dragged him out of retirement or whatever rock he happened to be hiding under at the time and tried to get him with a gotcha. Now, it still might be fair game given that Lewandowski was a prominent Trump supporter and Trump advisor, but it's not even that. It's actually very important. Corey Lewandowski is making the rounds to the press in 2024, today, as a surrogate and advocate and top advisor for the Trump campaign. So his credibility is really freaking important, and it's perfectly fair game for Ari Melber to ask questions about it. So I want to play another clip, which kind of concludes this segment. It gets even more heated.
Is that correct?
I didn't say that. I don't recall that particular interview.
Final chance to address this. The Trump administration had an open investigation. Then President Trump did ask you to interfere with Sessions, and you did lie about it in public, yes?
Ari, listen, we've been down this path, okay?
Well, we haven't. This is your first time back since the path.
Ari, that interview was 4+ almost 5 years ago to the day, to be very honest with you.
Okay.
You guys want to relitigate something from half a decade ago, and I think what you'd rather have is me talking about what the future looks like for the next president of the United States and the policy differences between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris.
Let's be straight. You're a clear, straight speaker. I gave you time. I didn't lead with this. I gave you time to talk about 2024. You got that time. And this is now your chance to address this. And you're not addressing it. That's fine.
Ari, you're not
people can read that for themselves.
You're not addressing the fact that you said Donald Trump has a bandage on his ear.
You want me to respond to that?
Okay.
I'd be happy to since we're on live air. I'm gonna respond to you on live air. I quoted a New York Times article that said, at the convention, Donald Trump was his own biggest prop. It was a New York Times quote about how he had become such an important figure in rebounding from what was a horrific assassination attempt. Fox News, which Corey, I said I'd address it. I'm going to finish. Fox News, many viewers may not know about this, but apparently you do, and some do. Fox News, which has been caught in defamation, ran a false piece, falsely stating that I said something else that I didn't say. So I stand on that. I stand on the New York Times
quote.
So
you didn't say this bandage was a prop, a spectacle from a candidate who was obsessed with spectacles.
Mr. Lewandowski, I did not say that. That is a false quote.
Right here. It's clear.
What you have is a false quote. What you have is a false quote. And I'm putting you on notice. If you continue to repeat falsely that I said that, you will be potentially in a defamation situation because I didn't say that. But I understand that you're working off the internet, which is a lot of false information.
This is what it says.
I wish you luck with that. And Corey Lewandowski, we gave you time. I appreciate you coming on.
For that.
Thank you for joining me.
So I don't know how I feel about this. I go back and forth on this. This is a sort of dispute that I have, or a conflict that I have when I engage with Trump supporters and MAGA Republicans, which is very often why I'm so mean to them in conversation. This is actually a really interesting example. There are some people out there, and I understand the perspective, who say what Ari Melber did, Ari Melber being an excellent debater, he's a trained attorney, he's a great host, he clearly enjoys this stuff, that what he did was really good because he exposed Corey Lewandowski for the dishonest actor that he is. He brought the receipts. He gave him an opportunity to answer. He humiliated Lewandowski when Lewandowski tried to change the subject. He's like, yeah, listen, I will generously do you a favor, but we're going to do this first. I need you to answer first. And he kept pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing. And when Lewandowski repeatedly refused to answer, it further demonstrated Lewandowski's dishonesty and his incredibility, and basically humiliated him. But that will make its way out to the media and to viewers. But then he actually graciously answered Lewandowski's question, which also happened to benefit Ari Melber, I suppose, because he's like, hey, listen, this quote that you're attributing to me is false. This is actually what I said instead. You are referencing, publications from Fox News. Fox News, of course, he also was correct to point out, had to pay $800 million to Dominion Voting Systems in a defamation settlement, perhaps the biggest in American history, because they are so chronically dishonest. And then, of course, he threatened him with a lawsuit. I understand that perspective, this idea that actually what he did was good. He dragged it out. He humiliated him. He held his feet to the fire, but he gave his answer. On the other hand, I don't know, because part of me feels that what he should have done instead was, no, I'm not going to answer your question because we have to have a reciprocity. It's not going to be a thing, Corey, where you get everything you want and I get nothing. You want what you want. You're going to give me what I want. And that's the sort of reciprocity we have to have. MAGA's success, to the extent that they have any, is contingent, folks. It's contingent on one-sided charitability. Think about it. Think about civility. That's an easy example. MAGA is the least civil political movement in modern American history. They routinely insult, mock, attack their critics, their opponents, those critics and opponents' loved ones. Think about the terrible things that Donald Trump, the leader of MAGA, has said about Ted Cruz's wife or his father, or the physical appearance of his 2016 campaign opponents, what he has said about the wife of Republican incumbent governor Brian Kemp, what Marjorie Taylor Greene, a sitting MAGA cultist Republican congresswoman, what she has said about the Democratic Party, referring to the Democratic Party as a party of groomers and pedophiles. They do that, and so do conservative pundits. And yet they demand civility from others. You can't criticize them. You can't call them threats to democracy. You can't give a speech calling them out, because if you do, you're just being cruel and uncivil. They can dish it out, and they want a blank check to dish it out, but they do not want to have to get a fraction of it in turn. And so much of mainstream media and so-called centrism grades them on that curve. People will clutch their pearls if President Biden, says something stern about MAGA Republicans, even if he gives like 10 or 20 disclaimers. Not all Republicans, not even most Republicans, not even half Republicans. Disclaimers that Republicans never make about the opposition. But it doesn't matter. The Democrats are graded on a curve. I think what you just saw here was something very similar, which is this idea that Republicans bank on them being able to do whatever they want and being able to bully their way into getting what they want out of you without giving you nothing in return. I'm kind of torn on this, because on the one hand, I think what Ari Melber did was pretty smart. On the other hand, I'm thinking, why would you even bother? Maybe you should just humiliate the guy, own him in the marketplace of ideas, and then cut the interview, because really you're the one with the power. Dunk on him. I'm torn on this. This is why my approach when I discuss politics in conversations or debates with MAGA Republicans, it really does vary on a case-by-case basis. If I think that the person with whom I'm speaking will be civil and will answer questions, I'm more inclined to do the same as well. On the other hand, if the person with whom I am speaking employs the same sort of dishonest double standards, dishonesty and the double standards employed by the likes of Corey Lewandowski, I'm much less likely to do that. And so I really am interested. I thought it was a really interesting exchange. Again, I probably I agree that Lewandowski was humiliated. He was further disgraced, given that he is now a surrogate for the Trump campaign again. But I am torn overall. Should Ari Melber have had this interview? And if he did, should he have done it a different way? Or should he have had the interview and the way that he handled the interview he had was really good? I'm curious. Would love you all to comment and let me know what you think.